So, yeah, good afternoon, everybody, and thank you for giving me the opportunity to talk a little bit from a local authority perspective. Obviously, have been working in the 5G environment for a period of time at Shropshire Council, looking at opportunities, and obviously, it's a very exciting and evolving space, specifically really with regards to some of the test beds and trials. And obviously, we are in Shropshire involved in the project that Joe McArdle was touching upon earlier on. I suppose I just wanted to really, set the scene. My role at Shropshire Council to start with. I'm responsible for Connecting Shropshire, which primarily started off as a broadband programme, and that's really, I suppose, where the 5G aspect started to raise its head a number of years ago. Shropshire is the largest inland county. I'm pretty sure. I think occasionally we do have an argument on whether it is or isn't, but we often use that as a metric to articulate the challenges when it comes to provision of broadband. We're doing quite well. When it comes to broadband, we have probably around about 98% of the county covered from a premise perspective. But we still have quite a number of premises in the very rural fringes. So obviously getting connectivity into those areas is an absolute requirement. And Paul touched upon ubiquitous coverage, and we're very passionate to try and provide an element of equity when it comes to broadband provision, and 5G perhaps could offer some of that opportunity. And I think certainly from listening to the other speakers, it's really where does 5G play in a very rural county such as Shropshire? It's also interesting when you hear some of the speakers certainly talking about ambitious targets for 5G coverage. Now, there is a shared rural network program which is currently looking at plugging the gaps for 4G coverage, because at the moment, if you look at Shropshire or nationally at the moment, 66% of the country is covered by all providers. So there's still a long way to go just for 4G. So to get to 5G coverage by 2022, I think is going to be particularly ambitious. I mean, my view is that in Shropshire, again, using that as a barometer, we're still not really seeing a great deal even in some of our urban towns. So to actually start to see the deployment happen in a rural environment, it's still going to be a few years away. And the reason I'm just touching upon the infrastructure is because that's the driver here. In order to actually take up some of those opportunities that we've been hearing about this afternoon, and bring about some of those exciting disruptors, there has to be a baseline for the enablement of some of that technology. And I'm a fond believer that you do have to remember what you are trying to derive from an outcome from the technology. And I think my role at Shropshire Council has always been about connectivity to enable that. And I think at the moment the biggest challenge for us is to get super fast broadband out there. The government's now bringing forward its gigabit program, and Shropshire is well placed in that. And we're actually currently going through a market review to look at that. Obviously, getting fibre out into the rural areas will be the key aspect in order to enable some of that 5G connectivity. And we've talked a little bit about frequencies and transmitters. And absolutely, in the rural areas, you will not need to have the same level of density as you may well in an urbanized environment where perhaps you'll be looking at a completely different set of outcomes from the 5G technology. So I think, from a local authority's perspective, we are obviously interested in the connectivity opportunity. We already have a significant number of masts, which Joe touched upon this, and we're looking to repurpose some of that, because I think something that government needs to understand is how can you actually roll out some of this 5G technology expediently, and repurposing existing assets is a key aspect nationally. So I think that will be an interesting proposition to understand some of those lessons. I think also from a local authority perspective, we obviously fully understand that we are in a influential position to bring about some of those societal changes in our communities. So we're very keen to certainly look at other funding opportunities to bring forward. Test beds. So obviously we have a test bed down on the Worcestershire border that again Joe touched upon. I think that I would like to think will provide some further springboards and other opportunities. We know that the Department of Digital Culture, Media and Sport may well have other opportunities going forward, and again I think there'll be other collaborative space for us to investigate. We're very close to West Midlands Combined Authority, and again learning from some of their early experiences will hopefully translate again into a more rural environment. So I think, you know, the opportunity now, certainly from the discussions we've had today, is very much about maybe collaborating and sharing some of the learning from some of the test beds that we've heard from. And obviously there are some great other projects that are out there as part of the national UK 5G network, and I'd certainly encourage people to have a look at the website and sign up through that process in order to register interest in some of those other projects. Certainly as a local authority, we talk to lots of our neighbours, not just around our borders, which we share with a number of other counties, but we certainly share good practice with others, and we'd be very keen to continue to have those conversations, not just with local authorities, but also other public sectors and industry. I think from my perspective, what will remain the key outcome that we need to drive forwards with from a 5G perspective will be the connectivity, which will enable better broadband, and that might be from a selfish perspective for obvious reasons. But I think that has to be one of the key drivers into the rural areas, and obviously opening up some of the auctioning on frequencies to the mobile network operator marketplace will certainly bring about, I hope, in due course, some fantastic opportunities for our rural communities to experience not over better connectivity, but obviously some of the societal changes that will come about from smart power, some of the opportunities around improved energy efficiencies that we've touched upon today. So I certainly welcome the opportunity to take any questions from a local authority perspective, and obviously would encourage you all to stay connected and share as you have done today within the group. So I suppose it's over to you, Pascal, if there's any questions you'd like to throw out to the group.
Actually, it's going to be John Haycox who will close up. Thank you, Chris. Really, really great insights.
Yeah, just thank you very much, Chris. Thank you very much, everybody who's taken part in terms of asking questions, and also everyone who's spoken today. Really appreciate everyone's time. It's obviously a very exciting area to be involved with at the moment. Obviously, you know, looking at how we can use these new technologies to, you know, improve the environment. I was interested in the kind of, not only will 5G be more energy efficient, but it allows us to apply the technologies to become more environmentally friendly, improving our systems and making things run cleaner and safer. I think that's fantastic. I think there's a lot of opportunity here for collaboration, so I definitely encourage everybody to keep in touch. We can stay online for a few more minutes. We can use the chat to kind of share contact details, share projects that you may be working on. The one thing I'd be interested to hear from anyone is you know, are there any upcoming opportunities to be able to collaborate in terms of, you know, funding bids and funding opportunities. Speaking for myself, from you know, a private company, always helps to have some backing, some funding when we start looking at, you know, new applications. So I don't know if anyone's aware of any opportunities that might be available at the moment to get involved in this. Maybe Chris, I don't know if there's anything that you have come across recently that might be appropriate for people to get involved in.
Yes, John. I mean, I think the best way to stay connected as to the funding streams is obviously to maybe register with UK 5G. they will certainly be putting out information with regards to any calls. And I think obviously COVID will certainly have had an implication with regards to some of the national projects and the spend that obviously would have needed to have been used, and projects that would have needed to have looked at potentially completing by March next year. So it'll be interesting to see whether or not there'll be another call. And that's why it's, these sessions are really, really important to build up those relationships and to start thinking. So, one thing I didn't touch upon previously, we've been having a number of conversations. Shropshire Council, as you may well know, River Severn partnership is a developing project which includes a number of local authorities, and it's obviously an incredibly important asset that runs through a number of county areas and provides both a risk and an opportunity. And I think that there is something very much around the water theme. We keep talking very much about it within the local authority, and I'm sure that with the right partners, there could be quite an exciting project. So, there are other avenues, and sometimes you don't always necessarily need, as Paul touched upon previously, it doesn't necessarily have to be 5G technology. It can actually be perhaps some other type of technology which doesn't necessarily need such high bandwidth. And the reason I just touch upon that is that there are other funding streams out there that don't necessarily fit into that space.
Great, thank you. And I know that the Crest, please do contact them, Pascal, Vicky as well. I know they have funding available to speak to companies to kind of find out their needs and undertake a kind of a period of discussion with them and talk about what funding and what product development or other potential innovations can be worked on. They've got various different projects that they can kind of help with in that regard.